Have you ever had that thought? What would I do if my car broke down right now and my baby was with me? I certainly have. If that scenario makes you panic, you're not alone. Even thinking about the possibility makes me anxious. And that's just one of the reasons I'm so excited to have Jackie Dempsey here today. Jackie is a mechanic by trade and a mom who founded and runs the nonprofit Mechanic Mama, where she teaches women, children, and really anyone who's interested the ins and outs of car maintenance and what to do in the event of a roadside emergency. On top of that, she's building a kit geared for parents with everything they need to keep themselves and their kid calm in the event of a breakdown. Today, we'll learn about what inspires Jackie, as well as common car emergencies and what you should have with you to get yourself back on that road quickly and safely. This is Getting Started with Baby, the podcast that brings you practical tips, loved products, and lived experience from parents who've been there. Brought to you by thestarterset.com, an upcoming service focused on helping parents find just the right things at the right time, personalized for their families. I'm your host, Jane Deshefsky, a mom on the other side of 2 under 2. I'm still actively figuring all this out and bringing you perspectives from across the parenting spectrum. Let's get into it. Welcome, Jackie. We're so excited to talk to you today.
Hi, thank you for having me on.
So to get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family?
I am a single mom. I've been a diesel mechanic for about 17 years in Southern California. I've worked for some pretty large companies and raising my daughter. It's just me and my daughter. I work full time. I do the crazy mom thing.
Yeah, that sounds like a busy schedule.
Yeah.
So you founded the Mechanic Mama. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Mechanic Mama is and how it helps parents?
So the Mechanic Mama Foundation is a nonprofit organization that I founded and run myself. And it is geared towards teaching women and families, or I mean, really anyone, basic car maintenance, how to check your air pressure, what a tire is, what a battery is, what do you do when your check engine light comes on, how to handle taking your vehicle into shops and making sure you don't get ripped off, because that is a pretty common thing. What to do in the event of a breakdown. Sometimes waiting for AAA can take quite a long time. So I want to try to help people stay calm in those situations, and especially breaking down with kids can be even more difficult, scary, and stressful. So that's what the whole foundation is geared towards. We hold events and work with charter schools as well.
That is so cool. I didn't know that something like this existed, but boy, could I have used it and can still use it. The idea of breaking down and your kids in the car, that's totally panic inducing to me. So it's so cool to know that something like this exists and that you're trying to help people be able to help themselves. What inspired you to do Mechanic Mama?
And I've been a heavy equipment mechanic, diesel mechanic for a long time now. In recent months, before I launched this, I would go into the parts department to buy something, and I would overhear someone, usually telling a woman, like, oh, you need this, or oh, you've got to get this repaired. And the final straw for me was going into the dealership, and there was an old woman who had this pretty much brand new car and had very low miles, because I heard them say the mileage, and they charged her $1,200 for something that she absolutely did not need on a brand new car like that. I've seen that so many times. That's what sparked my interest, is if you don't know but you want to know, it can be pretty intimidating to learn. I wanted to make an environment where people can learn, especially women, because usually it's women that are put down for it.
That's amazing. I can totally relate to that feeling of feeling intimidated or feeling like someone's not being totally honest with you in those situations. How do you help people get over that feeling of being intimidated by this subject matter?
I think just making sure that they know that it's okay not to know, and that if you want to learn, then you can learn, and that you just need to be given the tools, like with anything. If you want to bake a cake and you've never done that, it's exactly the same thing, in my opinion. People have an environment where here's the tools, this is what they do, here's how you use them. If you have any questions, that's what I'm here for. This stuff is relatively easy, but yet people go in and they get ripped off by shops and they pay astronomical amounts.
You mentioned that you've been running some workshops and classes, and sometimes specifically geared toward parents or even towards kids in charter schools. What are some of the concerns that bring parents to you?
The honest message that I get the most is from moms that have told me, you know, my husband knows how to do this stuff, but he just won't. That especially in homeschools, they want their kids to learn as much real world things as possible. And so they
Mhm.
want their kids to know that there's more to vehicles than just you get in them and you go, because they want them to be ready for the real world. Even if they're 7 or 8 years old, they want them to be able to help check the air pressure in the tire and they don't know how to do it. Their husband's not helping them for whatever reason. And so that's kind of where I come in. And I have a little junior mechanic certificate and little plush toys and little workshops that kids can do that's hands on and comparing it to things that they relate to, like bicycles and fun things,
Mhm.
video games, whatever. So that way they can be interactive, safe with adults. And the biggest thing, I'll be honest, that's really fueling me through this too is that I've gotten a lot of messages about domestic violence survivors who have told me, you know, he would disable my vehicle and it was my only way to leave. And if that vehicle had not been disabled, I could have left. No idea that that was any part of this. But now that that's been brought to my attention, it's huge to me.
That is such an awful scenario. If they haven't taken one of your classes, what are some of the basic things that they can do to know what's going on in their car or how they might be able to help themselves in that situation?
Well, I know in some situations they're limited internet or limited access to anything. So I would say if you can go to the library, get some books on vehicles and just read while you're there during the day, or if you can Google what is a fuse and what is how to inflate my tires, how to change a tire, how to do these basic things. Once you read it a couple times, it's really relatively simple. And with the information now online, you really can do it yourself. You just need to know that.
It's probably also pretty common that if you don't know, it's hard to even know where to start.
Yes. Totally the foundation of it is if you don't know, there's ways to know. You just have to have the will to get you there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you mentioned, and this is absolutely true, having been a AAA member, that let's say you do break down, let's say your kids are in the car. If you do happen to have AAA, even calling AAA can take a while, or calling a friend, that can take a while. So, in a situation like that, are there things that you recommend people have in their car?
I would say for sure extra fuses, maybe gloves, a ratchet for your lug nuts, and a jack are some of the main things. You can have oil too, which is always good to have, but depends on how much space you have, I guess.
Even hearing you say those things over my head. So, like, let's maybe go back to a little bit more basic of what are the kinds of problems that people might experience such that they would need those various tools?
So I would say that the most common thing that people experience on the road is overheating, where
Mm.
you haven't checked your coolant, like your vehicle is 15 years old and you've never changed the fluid in your radiator before. And then you're going up a hill in the middle of summer and your car starts to overheat and you have no idea what to do. And a lot of people will put water in their radiator. So I say
Mm.
no water because that it's just not beneficial at the time. But if you have coolant, 9 times out of 10, you wait for your car to cool down, you open the cap on the radiator, and you can put the coolant in there and be on your way. So I think oil, coolant, a wrench to get your lug nuts off, because if you need to change your tire, you're going to need something to get the tire off. And so that's where the
Mm.
wrench come in. Or if your vehicle is low on oil, you haven't had an oil change in a very long time, you can always put oil in there and then maybe get to your next destination at least. Uh, and fuses are electrical components that are really easy to swap out. That could happen if you have a stereo that can blow a fuse here and there and cause additional problems. Uh, so it's just little things like that.
Has it ever happened to you that you were traveling with your kid and there was an unexpected breakdown?
Yes, a couple times. One time when my daughter was, I think she was probably like maybe 8 months old, and she was still in her little carrier. And I had a small car. One of my cars at the time was Toyota Camry, and I didn't have my jack in the trunk. And I got a flat tire at a restaurant with my sister, and we were about an hour away from home. So I couldn't change the tire, and I was irritated at myself, of course, but I had to call AAA, and they sent a single cab tow truck. So not a tow truck that could take myself and my daughter home, and they told
Oh,
me
no.
that no way that they could send another tow truck to take us home and that I would have to find a ride. And this was before Uber and all that stuff. So I was an hour away from home, and my house is about 3 hours away from my sister's house. So I had no choice but to have someone take me home because the tow truck wouldn't take us home. So if I had only made sure that I had my jack, 'cause I don't remember what I was doing, but I cleaned out my car or something and I just didn't have it in there, so I couldn't do what I needed to do. And so anyway, so that was number one. It was a horrible experience and I learned from that. And the second time my daughter was a newborn and I got a flat tire and she was screaming and it was raining, and it was just one of those fun scenarios where we're stuck in traffic. My tire goes flat. I have to pull over on the side of the road and change a tire. But in that instance, I knew what to do. I knew how to get myself out of that situation. My daughter was upset, but it didn't take me very long. And then we're back on the road. And I really want to help people realize that they can do that when your kid's crying and you can fix the situation.
Just hearing that gives me anxiety, both of those scenarios.
Oh,
'Cause I even will get stuck in traffic with kids, right? And I'm like, what do I do if this traffic doesn't move? I don't have
yeah.
more food in the car. What happens? How do I get out of here? So, I mean, those sound like scenarios that are very scary, plus having the child.
Yeah, and that's one of the things in the emergency kit that I'm building is you get the generic emergency kits on Amazon and someone says, "Oh, this one's 30 bucks that has everything I need," but those components are cheap stuff that's probably going to break when you go to try to use it. It has nothing in there to keep you calm. It has nothing in there to keep your child calm if you have a child in there. And so the type of kit that I'm building has items in there to help overall in this situation. And so at least a little bit, or make you feel empowered and okay, I know I have this in this kit. I have it for emergencies because kids need to be entertained, always need snacks, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
And it's whenever you break down, it's always going to be that time that you didn't grab the snack bag or you didn't grab their toys or you forgot their tablet or whatever it is. That's always when it's going to happen. So that's why it's good to just have it in there and forget about it until you need it.
God. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what it takes to get on a plane with kids, we have a whole separate carry-on for snacks. So, what is in this emergency kit?
Making it so people can make it custom to how big their vehicles are. Because in my emergency kit in my truck, I have compartments in my truck, and then in the bed of the truck, I have my toolbox. So I have an air compressor, I have a jack, I have all my a regular floor jack, I have all my stuff. But in a someone's small compact car, where they also have to put their stroller and their work bag and everything else, they can't fit all that stuff. So there's smaller items that they can have that can inflate a tire that you just plug right into your cigarette lighter. And then there's tools if you need something to get the tire off, but you need it to have extra leverage because you don't have the arm strength or you're worried about the arm strength. There's tools that you can get that will go from 18 inches to like 24 inches. So when you
Mhm.
store it, it's smaller and more compact. And then when you need it, you expand it and then you have that leverage and that confidence to be able to do it. And a lot of people don't know that. They just think, oh, I need all this big stuff, but you don't. You can fit different components in different ways. So to answer your question, there's tire inflator, tire pressure gauge, things for the kids, whether that be toys or snacks that would be good snacks, but can be sustaining in a vehicle for long periods of time. Water, possibly a
Mhm.
blanket, a flashlight, something to protect yourself with because you never know where you're going to break down. And flares, the usual, but things that will
Yeah.
help you as well as like a QR code so that you can scan that code and get a video of how to change a tire, or hey, how do I check my coolant? I can't remember. I don't have cell reception. Well, on the back of that QR code card is instructions to us, as well as being able to have the option to call a mechanic directly in an emergency situation. A lot of people have told me if I could just talk to someone that could calmly help me and walk me through this, then that would really be beneficial to me.
I'm sure in those situations too, it's like hard to, even if you had some of the training, but you weren't doing it all the time, to remember everything that you needed to know. So that sounds like it's going to be really useful.
Yeah, exactly. And people forget that they can do it, and then they'll freak out, which is understandable because it's a stressful situation, but you make that phone call or you get that QR code that reminds you that you can do it, and you say, "Oh, I got this." And then it levels out the situation because your kid's going to be stressed if you're stressed, but if you handle the situation like a boss, and your kid's going to be like, "Wow, look at mommy's changing the tire," whatever. And then the flow, makes it nice.
One of the things you were saying in the breakdown scenario, part of what you're thinking about in this kid is how to keep the parent calm, how to keep the child calm. I think for the child, the snacks make a
Yeah.
big difference. But
Mhm.
as a parent in a situation like that, any advice for how to stay calm?
Yes. People have said that the main thing that they would want is to stay calm in this type of situation that would help them
Mhm.
would be the ability to call someone to talk them through it, or a direct QR code directly for what exactly they're looking for. So that way they don't need to sit there on their phone and Google how to change a tire. Oh, this video is not informative. And then they have the stress of finding a video that works for them. And because some big buff guy changing a tire is not going to help you if you're 110 pounds and you need to use your feet to get the lug nuts off. Everybody is different, but everybody can still do it. So giving people the ability to say, you know what, here's my QR code for changing a tire. Let me watch this video real quick. Okay, I got this. Here's all the tools that I need. Everything's listed out right here. And now I know what to do. And now I can do this without the stress of having to search for stuff. Because that couple of seconds of Googling, you don't need that added stress when your kid's crying and you're trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. That is well said. So, you know what's funny is I've been seeing more of these toys and things on Amazon where you can actually help kids learn to take apart things and put them back together. Do you recommend getting kids interested in this stuff early?
Oh yeah, I think it's huge for hand-eye coordination and logic. And there's a company called KiwiCo,
Mhm.
KIWI. Have you heard of it?
Yes, yeah.
And I've gotten my daughter their kits, their engineering kits, since she was like 4 years old, and she loves them. And it really helps, I think, because it gives the kids the tools to do it themselves, and then they just have to ask you for help every once in a while. I guess if they can't read, then you might have to help them, but they still can do it themselves. And I think that that's really important. And I also like for my daughter, she's been working on stuff with me since before she could walk, and so I think now she's not quite as into it anymore, but she knows and she's aware of this tool does this and I put this here and whatever. And I think it's just good for their confidence, and definitely the fact that just teaching them that you can do this, whether you want to make a career of it or not, but you can work with your hands, huge for
Yeah.
confidence.
So you mentioned the KiwiCo engineering kit. Which of the kits do you particularly like and why?
I would say I really like the engineering one just because it helps kids broaden their mind of what they're capable of. And I think stuff like cooking and the other things are really important, but that's stuff that maybe they'll learn on the regular. But being able to build the little vacuum thing or doing science experiment type stuff, I think that's huge because that's not something they'll do in their everyday.
Just hearing you talk about the vacuum kit, I can only imagine how excited a child would be having built that themselves and then watching it work.
Yeah, it was so cool. I love that company. And it's not even that expensive, which is great.
What about, well, I'm super interested from your point of view behind the curtain of mechanics. Is there anything that a parent might think that they need for their car or to make sure that they have in case of, an emergency with their kids that they probably don't need?
I would say, probably too much stuff. I think kids are pretty simple. You give them a cardboard box and they're happy. So I would
Hmm.
say overdoing it is probably a big one. I know I used to, when my daughter was smaller, I would try to bring everything in the kitchen sink in the car with me because I wanted to make sure she was happy at all times. But then that adds extra stress to you. And if you get a flat tire, you're sifting through all the stuff in your trunk or the back of your car trying to get to it. So I would say just try to simplify. What does your kid like? Do they like picture books? Bring one picture book and call it a day. Or have that one item that you know that they like that you can bust out in a serious situation and they're going to automatically be in tune with it because they never really get to see it that often and that's something that they like. But I think just having too much stuff is really the key there, is that your kids don't need all that much. They just need you and basic things. And if you can stay calm, I think is a huge focus on that too. Your kid might not even need anything in their hands, but if they can see that you're calm and in control during a breakdown, that's going to help them stay calm and in control. Or if your kid's older and it's a safe environment, of course, I'm not advocating for on the side of the freeway or anything like that, but if it's safe to do so, have them help you with it. Whatever the breakdown is, have them hold the coolant bottle or help you change the tire. I think that's a big deal too.
Yeah, that's good advice. And it's so true that kids feed off your energy as well, right? So if you can stay calm, it probably really helps that situation. What, if you had to sum up what you would want, particularly parents, to take away from this, what would that be?
I would say that empowering yourselves empowers your kids, and you don't have to be a mechanic to be able to handle yourself in a breakdown. But it's important, and not everyone wants to know about their cars or get their hands dirty, and that's okay. But if you can avoid costly repairs just by having some basic knowledge or just having a resource so that you can consult when you need to and knowing that you're going to use it instead of just allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. I think that's a huge thing, is don't go into the shop and say yes to everything and then be sad because you overpaid, but you didn't do anything about it. Let's empower ourselves to empower our children. And I think that that's really what I want people to do, is just know that you can do it. And that helps your kids.
That's such a good message to take away. It reminds me that I need to go start learning about some of this stuff as well.
And you don't have to sit there for hours and take a full on mechanic class. That's not what I'm advocating for, but just learning the basics. It's good to just know the basics because you don't want to have to wait for someone on the side of the road. You just got to be able to handle yourself under stressful situations. And I think part of that is knowing that you have the tools to do it rather than just being like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Taking out the what am I going to do part and knowing, okay, my car's breaking down, but I have the tools to do it. Not a big deal. We got this. That type of
Yeah.
thought process is better, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing this with us. This has been such an interesting conversation, and I absolutely love what you're doing. It's such a great thing to see how this can empower women and families and help them help themselves, really.
I appreciate you having me on.
To learn more about the Mechanic Mama, you can find the Mechanic Mama on Facebook. Check out the link in the episode notes. To keep up to date on our latest episodes, follow us. Thank you for listening. Till next time.